this connection to God has had a miraculous effect upon my life. There has been numerous challenges that I faced, one with my grandmother, but I've come to realize that these challenges were put there for a purpose. They were put there to divide me in this physical form from that spiritual connection that I know I am. I've come to believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. That my true self is not this flesh that you see. This is the sack of skin that I wear. This is the coarse animal that has a brain and cognitive ability that can function here in this tactile world, this physical reality, and allow my spiritual being to interact with everything around me so I can learn and I can live and I can experience things in this realm. This is not my true self. I've seen this swirling blue light ever since I started meditating. It's this beautiful blue light. And I've come to believe that that's my true being. That's my true essence. That's my divine spiritual being. This divine spiritual being has always been there and will always be there because it's energy. Einstein's proven that all the elements, all the elements of the universe are constant. You know, there's nothing that goes; everything stays. It might change its form, but it's always been there and always will be there. You know, and then you got to look at what's God. God's always been there and it always will be there. So, you know, can we start to prove through science that God exists? Maybe God is not what we think. Maybe God is not this little old man sitting up on a throne somewhere in this beautiful white place with pearly gates. Maybe God is something more infinitesimal. There's a lot of religious people right now that are really getting on to the clue. You know, I'm trying to remember his name. That there's a guy who wrote this book that he communicated with God, and he said always and in all ways. Well, that's very true. He's all or he, whatever you want to call it, God, Source, the Holy Spirit, the Great Spirit, whatever name you put to it. We could call it the giant cupcake in the sky if you're more comfortable with that. This thing that we define as God, Source, is energetically connected to everything in this realm and energetically connected to everything in the other realm, the metaphysical realm, that place where we go once we leave these bodies. These bodies contain what we refer to in the West as our spirit. This spirit is our life force, this energetic being that ties us to these bodies. If you look at a body that's passed on, their skin is cold and clammy to the touch. It has no warmth coming from it. There's no energy coming from it. That thing that was the spark of life has left. Elvis has left the building. That, I've come to believe, is our energetic being. I really believe that we are a trinity. There are three things that make us up. One is our spiritual essence, that part of us that is the divine from the other side. That is so light in ether that it cannot interact with this coarse physical body. That's the second thing, my coarse physical body. I'm going to go into here for that. Even though there's three up, keep this down. So we have the spiritual essence and the coarse physical body. These two are so different they cannot commune together. So you need the thing that ties it together, and that's your energetic body. That's the energetic makeup. I've studied Reiki, I've studied Chinese medicine, I've studied some acupuncture in my path to understand the how and why of it all. And I've come to believe that they're energetic channels throughout our body. There's three main channels, and then there's all your chakras for anybody who's studied the healing arts of the East. These centers of energy, these meridians, connect our spiritual being to the physical being. They go out in many directions, and they all turn in different channels all throughout our body in different directions, and it allows the flow of our spiritual being to connect with the coarse physical being. To become enlightened, I believe that one must realize this connection and balance the energy channels of the physical body daily. And through that, you realize that you are more than your physical being. You accept the fact that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. This plants the seed daily over and over and over again that I am more than the sum of my parts. I am this connection to the divine. When you start to do that, you start to churn inside. Things start to happen because you start to seek this truth. We are separated from God by one thing: fear. Fear is the absence of courage. When we forget that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, we forget that everything that happens in this life is meaningless. It has purpose here as a learning tool, but when you get caught up in these emotions, these angers, these jealousies, these frustrations, oh, he did this to me, she did that to me, me, you look outward instead of inward. What am I supposed to learn from this? What is the path that I'm supposed to take? We separate ourselves from that connection to the divine. When you look at things as learning experiences and you realize that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, you maintain that connection because you're able to look for the answers, look for the purpose and the path. I will give you how I've gotten to that point. I told you what happened with my grandmother, how my grandmother was very abusive when I was young. She wanted to remove my male genitalia. She thought that I was the incarnate evil because I had a penis. And she would sit there and bite at it and twist it and tell me she was going to cut it off with scissors. I mean, she was really a very hurt person because she could not see any forgiveness. When I was 16 years old, the same male friend who told me that if I keep praying, the devil, that thing in the garage, is going to come get me, he said, hey, why don't we make some tequila sunrises? Your parents are out of town. And I got really drunk, and then him and this other guy beat me up and raped me. I was physically beaten, pants pulled down. I tried to fight. I was punched in the head repeatedly, and I was anally raped by two guys. I could not stand these people. I had such anger and such vile hatred for them, for what they did to me. It was they did to me. I separated myself from the spirituality of the true essence of myself, my true spiritual being. When I started to get into meditation and I started to pray and I started to realize that everything happens for a reason, I wanted to understand why. And I started to look at what happened in my life. And I started to realize that, okay, if everything happens for a reason and a purpose, why did this happen? What was the purpose behind that? And I started to pray really, really hard to understand the reason why this happened.